crowd coming to hear. Thank you everybody for coming. My name is Chris Barth. I'm a public information officer with Rocky Mountain Team Black. We're here to help with the Eagle Complex. I appreciate everybody coming, such a large crowd. Hope everybody in the back can hear me. Great, thank you. I know you took some time out of your day to be here, so we want to respect that. Get right to what we're going to be talking about, the current fire situation on the Eagle Complex, and get everybody back to what they were doing previously. We definitely have plenty of time to answer questions for you. I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to do this afternoon. We are going to hear a situation update about the Eagle Complex from the Incident Commander Shane Greer first. We're going to hold some questions and comments after he does that, so that we have an opportunity for Larry Sandoval from the U.S. Forest Service and Mitch Williams from Oregon Department of Forestry to make a few brief comments. We'll introduce some of the other cooperators we have in the room in case there's some questions that are more appropriately directed towards them and you know that they're here. And then finally we'll open it up for questions, comments, answers. And again, I want you all to know, appreciate the wonderful turnout. I know you guys all have a lot of questions. We want to get to that. We want to answer the questions you have. But first we're going to start with a quick situational update about where the Eagle Complex is right now. With that, Incident Commander Shane Greer.
Good afternoon, everybody. Somebody. So I'll give you kind of a brief update. Just for info, I don't usually do the updates as the incident commander. I usually have an operations section chief, those folks that do the firefighting themselves directly. But we didn't bring one over here today because they're heavily involved in fire operations, and so I'm going to do the update, and then we'll try and answer questions and do some stuff for you. So it's pretty smoky over here today. Okay, where that's coming from mostly is from this spot fire right here. So what happened yesterday? Yesterday we had some tough fire conditions. We didn't have an inversion in the morning. It started out windy. It was a pretty windy day, and it was a hot, dry, windy day. Our weather forecasters told us yesterday that was going to happen, and unfortunately it did. And as you're all aware, I know you've had fires around here before. When we have hot, dry, windy days, we tend to get some fire growth. Some of what we did yesterday went really well, and so let me talk about that if I could first, and then I'll get to the part I think you're probably more concerned about. I'm going to kind of do the whole picture for you here so you know what we've been doing. When we first got here, there was 3 fires. There was a little one here, sort of a medium-sized one here, and another little fire over here from lightning, right? 3 lightning strikes in a row. Okay, since then they've started to grow together. And
could you give landmarks, sir, so we kind of understand?
Yes. 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 Sorry, I've given way too many of these at this point, and they're all just blurred. So this is Eagle River here. This is East Fork of Eagle.
And Cornucopia would be off the map, further to the east, and so we're over in this area off the map currently.
So from this spot fire here in Halfway, we're about 14 miles or so down over here. Okay, so looking all the way back, yeah, sorry, we needed another big map and we didn't grab it. So this is Eagle Creek here. Okay, so successfully we brought the fire down, as we call it. So we used a helicopter and we lit some fire and grew a lot of the little fires together, and then made one solid line of fire along the road here. We did that because we can hold the fire along the road, and we can start to mop it up, and we can get an anchor point, and we can protect all the structures that were along Eagle Creek. So we have successfully done that. The fire is straight along the road. We're working on mop-up, and they had a bit of a firefight yesterday securing around these structures in Eagle Creek, but that was successful yesterday, so hopefully today they're doing mop-up. With the winds yesterday we had out of the north-northwest, it pushed a lot of the fire to the southeast because the wind was blowing this direction. So it burned up and over the ridge, over our dozer line, and into East Eagle Creek. So that happened to us yesterday. Prior to that happening, we had sent a bunch of resources into the structures up in East Eagle Creek and done a bunch of prep work, which prep work, as we call it, is basically doing fire-wise work on the houses, but kind of in a hurry. So we go in, remove trees near the houses, move wood piles, do all the stuff to make them as fireproof as we possibly can. So that's what the fire crews were doing, and they set up sprinkler systems around the houses and a bunch of stuff to protect the houses when the fire got to them. So the fire burned down into East Eagle Creek a bit. All the sprinklers were fired up. The houses are still all there. We haven't lost any structures. But with the winds, it did what we call a spot fire. So the wind blew a bunch of embers over the drop. They landed on the other side of East Eagle Creek, and this grew to about 100 acres last night. So it's a pretty good sized spot fire. Our resources went back in last night. We had 2 fire trucks on patrol all night in this neighborhood. They went back in this morning, refueled all the fuel tanks, turned all the sprinklers back on, and all the structures are still there, and we're still in protection mode on the structures. Okay? This spot fire is currently pretty active. It's burning well. It made what we call a crown run last night, so it got up into the trees and ran to the top of the ridge with the wind. So it's active this morning, and that's where most of the smoke is coming from that you're seeing pushing into town here. Okay? Another part of the fire that was active yesterday and still is this morning is this top piece up here. Yesterday, it spent most of the day doing what we call backing into the wind, because the wind was blowing this way, but the fire kept growing into the wind. Y'all haven't had enough rain around here, so it's dry enough, the fuels are dry enough that it doesn't need a lot of wind. It'll back into the wind and do it fairly quickly. So this part, this map here, I know that's extremely hard to see, and I apologize. Later you can mill about and come and look at it. This is an infrared map. So during the night, all over the west, we fly an airplane with an infrared sensor on it, and it maps all of our fires for us, and it looks for where it's hot and where it's not, and then people stay up all night and draw maps for us. And so this was last night's infrared map, where it has dots is intense heat and scattered heat, or the slashes, excuse me, are intense heat, and the dots are scattered heat. So you can see over here on the spot fire, it's all slashes. So when they flew this, they flew this 39 minutes past midnight, and it had intense heat on the spot fire past midnight last night. So, and the rest of it shows where we had heat. So you're getting a lot of smoke off of the top of the fire up here and off of the spot fire. Okay? So what our resources are doing today on the fire, we're continuing to do mop up, which is just put out any hot spots close to our line along Eagle Creek. And in Eagle Creek, our line is the road that runs through there. So we have some resources doing mop up here because we don't want to happen what does to us sometimes. A lot of times we lose structures when a fire goes through, but it's after the fact. If we don't mop it up well and commit a lot of resources to mop up, the fire will creep along the ground and burn the house down. So we have to keep a lot of resources here to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we're doing mop up to protect the structures here. And then we have a lot of resources committed to trying to figure out where we can start building fire line around the east part of the main fire to continue to protect these structures. And then we have a lot of what we call our overhead people, our sort of middle management, division supervisors, task force leaders, people that supervise all the firefighters. They're flying when they can. Actually, I think we just got grounded. The wind's blowing so hard, I'll get into that in a second. I'm not sure we have any flights going on right now. But they're looking to see what we can do out ahead of the spot fire and see where we can go. Keep in mind with the spot fire and a lot of the activity in here, as I mentioned, it's crowning. So you all know how big the trees are. So when it gets into the trees, the flame lengths, how high the flames are, we're talking a couple 100 feet. So I mention that because we can't put firefighters in front of that. We can't just go build a fire line in front of 100-foot, 200-foot flames. It's impossible. So what we have to do is what we call go look for an indirect attack place. So we go find some place where we can get a little ways ahead of it, and then we can do a firing operation and light some fire, and hopefully back it. We call it back it down a hill, because if we light the fire on the top of the hill and let it back down, then it doesn't burn all the trees. It burns along the surface, and then when it gets to the main fire, there's nothing left for it to burn. So that's what our resources and our leadership is looking for, is a place out in front of the fire where we may be able to go to put in an indirect fire line with either bulldozers or hand crews or whatever we can use, and see where we can try and work on containing the spot fire. So that's what we're doing today. The problem with today, with the weather, so I mentioned yesterday was hot, dry, and windy. Today isn't quite as hot, and it's maybe not quite as dry, but it's a whole lot windier. So we're under what we call a red flag warning for large fire growth today. So that's not helping us. A lot of the air resources that we use that you're familiar with, air tankers, the drop retardant, our helicopters, we have all those things. We have our own helicopters to go looking where to put line. When the wind blows too hard or the smoke gets too heavy that they can't see, then we can't fly. And when I talked to them a few minutes before I came back in the room, they were just grounding a bunch of our aviation stuff because the wind's blowing too hard and it's getting too smoky. So we can't fly in that or we'll end up crashing something, and we don't want to crash anything. We really don't want to crash anything. So, okay? So that's sort of the fire update on what we're doing, what the fire is doing. Because I want to just have a conversation with you folks and talk about your concerns and what we're doing and have an open and honest conversation. I will tell you that our expectation from this spot fire today with the red flag warning and the hot, dry, and windy, it's going to grow. And it's going to grow quite a bit. It's not going to make it over to here or anything like that, but it's sitting in what we call a bowl. A lot of you, if you're familiar with this country, east of East Eagle Creek, on the east there, sorry. It's sitting so that this is all sort of downhill, and this is the top of a ridge here. So the fire is in what we call alignment. So the wind's blowing this way, and then it's sitting inside of a bowl, so all the wind is going to funnel straight uphill and up canyon in this bowl right here. And so we expect that to burn out today. Okay? And being blunt with you, there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it because we're back to the 200-foot flames, and we can't put people in front of it. We can't put bulldozers in front of it. That's just the unfortunate facts of what we deal with here. Okay? So we expect that to happen today. What else will probably happen from that is it will create more spot fires out in front of it. That's likely what it's going to do. Okay? So when that happens, our folks that are out there looking, we expect for that to happen, so then we're looking beyond where that may occur and opportunities for us to get ahead of it and start working on that indirect line, as I had mentioned. Okay? So we can predict a bit, and we have a person that works for us named a fire behavior analyst. His job is to predict where it's going to go and predict where the spot fires are going to go. And he draws maps for us, and it's out here, and his spot fires are out here. So then we go to look to see where can we put firefighters to build the indirect line to begin to contain it. Okay? Okay. I think let's end with that, let these folks talk, and then we're going to open it up here.
Right, so with that, I know people have a lot of questions or comments, and as I said at the beginning, let's try and hold those, have more of an open conversation after we get an opportunity to hear from Larry Sandoval from the U.S. Forest Service.
Thanks, Chris. Well, good afternoon. I'm here representing District Ranger Jeff Tomac. Have been actually since about last Tuesday, Wednesday, when we had a lot of increased fire activity with Eagle Fire, well, 3 fires at the time, but as well as folks are, I'm sure, aware of the fires down there at Cornet, Windy Ridge, El Dorado. And so I've been in helping Jeff, working with bringing this team in last Saturday. Prior to that, we had a Type 3 incident management team that came in from the southwest out of Arizona, New Mexico. Quickly realized that this thing was escalating, the complexity and the challenge. And so we pulled the trigger to bring in Shane's team. And with Shane's team, the hope is, they also, obviously they understand the fire complexities and have the skills and the resources typically available. But I'll tell you that the resources have been limited kind of throughout, and it's not unique to this fire. It's not unique to the other fires on the district and the forest. It's kind of this way throughout the west right now, and that's been the case. And so it was really trying. We had the big wind event last Friday, and we had the Type 3 team on at the time. And that was the plea that we kept hearing from them, gosh, if we could just get more resources, and talking, at the time, air and ground resources. But ground resources right now, Shane has mentioned that we've got some pretty good air resources. Ground resources remain limited. We're conveying that message. Shane and his team, they're conveying the message through the powers that they're connected with. We're sharing up with the force supervisor who's connected through other channels. We're also sharing that message that, to make the plea for getting the additional resources that Shane and his team need to be as successful as So it's, just wanted to kind of put that out there. It's been a tough go, and it doesn't matter who's been handling the fire. And so, so I'm here representing Jeff. Chris Stein is the ranger over the hill out of Enterprise and Joseph. She's actually Jeff's surrogate, but I'm here representing kind of both in terms of agents and administrator. I guess with that, I wanted to just say thanks to Shane and his team, thanks to Baker County and the Sheriff's Office. They've been really good partners. Thanks to Oregon Department of Forestry. It's, when these things happen, it really is a coordinated effort across a lot of jurisdictions, and everybody has been really fabulous to work with. So, Willie is the fire management officer here for the Whitman District. Anything to add, Willie?
No, not really. Again, thanks to the team for coming in. That's freed up our initial attack resources to concentrate on being available to do the initial attack, and it has freed us up a lot. So I do appreciate their help and their support here. And I'll just say, and I'm sure you'll hear it from other folks, we are really going to be strapped to handle the next fire. We're going to have to work hard at the initial attack and be effective. Our lookout tower is down. Quick response is going to be important. If folks see something, please call it in. The sooner we can respond, the better. And I'm speaking to the choir here, but and I'm sure Mitch will speak to that. Fire prevention is critical right now. These fires are getting away from us quick, and we don't have the resources to catch them this year. So fire prevention, especially with upcoming archery season, is critical to making us successful, because we're going to have trouble catching the next fire. Thanks.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And next, Mitch Williams from the Oregon Department of Forestry.
Good afternoon, everybody. Like you said, my name is Mitch Williams. I'm with the Oregon Department of Forestry. I'm representing Joe Hessel. A lot of you folks may know Joe. Joe's been out of the Baker office for many years. He is unavailable to be here today, so I'm representing him. Like Larry and everybody alluded to, we are really in a serious situation here in the Northwest. Our district for Oregon Department of Forestry has 5 of these going on in it right now, and that's what Joe's trying to oversee. And we're trying to share resources amongst all 5 of them. We're trying to get the resources to each one of the incidents that we can. And that's just even a little picture in really what's going on in the Northwest. There is multiple incidents going on in Washington, to the point that there's not any of these type teams even available to be dispatched to incidents right now. So, with that said, we are in a very serious situation. This team has come in here in a tough spot. They've come in here with very limited resources, very hard, tough fire to do anything with, and I feel they've done a great job in prioritizing things that they could do. They come in with resources, and they realized the importance of the structures and the homes up there, and have went in with their crews and prepped them very well, set up these sprinkler systems, and to date, and to minute or hour, wherever we are right now, we don't know of any of those that have been lost up there, and I applaud them for that. You know, they have not been able to get aggressive and get offensive with the fire, because we just don't have enough resources to do that with right now. So they have evaluated the situation and done a very good job of that. They're looking for opportunities to, like they're saying, to get out there and find places that we can fight this thing and can stop it, and I applaud them for that, and they're doing a good job. So thanks for everyone for being here. Hopefully we're trying to settle in some of your thoughts and concerns about this, and we'll be here to answer any further questions. So,
Thanks, Mitch. Also, I wanted to make sure, acknowledge a couple of our cooperators. First of all, I want to thank Todd Robinette, local fire chief, who's helped to get this meeting arranged and set up today in short fashion. So thanks for the help with that. Also, we have Gary Tim with Baker County Emergency Management here. A couple other folks that, if you have some questions pertinent or specific to who they represent, wanted to acknowledge and thank them for helping arrange this meeting and for being here today as well. So with that, again, I want to get into opportunity to ask questions, be a little bit more town hall opportunity for you guys to express your comments and ask questions. we conclude at the end of the meeting, I want to make sure that you all have good ways to get information, current information on the Eagle Complex. So I will make sure to provide you with some of that before we finish up today. So before I get started, I want to ask if Todd or Gary, any comments either of you would like to make?
I will be locally, I will be setting up an ICP right here, and it's going for information pertaining to the fire and what's happening in the city and the rural area. So any information, if you need anything, will be in this building.
Are you gonna be able to get better maps?
I might have to use a pencil.
Like larger or better is what I'm looking for.
Better.
Better map.
So including more here is what you're looking for.
The map that they posted online with the evacuations was a 40-year-old map.
Okay, so,
You know.
like I said, we'll get to questions and comments in 1 second. Before we do, I appreciate that. Gary, is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't wanna repeat what Mitch and the others have said, but at the county level, since the 80s, I've been involved with fire, and I'm a liaison for the county to the Forest Service, BLM, ODF, and the 12 municipal and rural districts across the county. Unprecedented summer as far as I'm concerned. No resources, you guys have heard that, but when these fires started, there was a lot of organization that took place at the rural level across Baker County, and I'm linked to 4 or 5 different teams, and I've been with these guys since they debriefed in Baker and set up, and it's frustrating that there aren't the resources, but they've already painted that picture of why they don't have kind of what they need. But I did talk to Sheriff Travis Ash. He was up at the fire before this meeting started, so I think he's gonna be tying in with the people in Richland, so he's apologizing for not making it. But I want you guys to know, as a county and as a city and area, that the sheriff's office and the county emergency management are working well with the agencies. The fact that this meeting got talked about last night and put together fast is great. But the sheriff is doing the evacuation piece, and so hopefully that information will be sent out strong. I know there'll be some informational things that can be sent out to you and keep posted on that. But I'll hang around too. If you need something from me, just grab me.
All right, thanks very much, Gary. So, great opportunity to segue. Want to check, can everybody in the back still hear really well? Okay, great. So, okay, I'll ask the speakers to
I'll
speak
be
up,
loud.
please, to make sure you reach the back of the room. So with that, there was a question. Before I turn it over to Shane, I just want to address the question about the map. Yesterday, there were some changing conditions with the evacs, and the county sheriff's office specifically is the ones that put that out. And Gary, please step in if you need to correct something. So there was some change in evacs yesterday. That was working very well with the operations folks as the conditions were changing. I believe at one point there was a map up that was actually drawn onto a forest map, and that might be, is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, actually, it was a BLM map that they had.
Okay, so there was a public lands map with, it was a highlighter that was used, so apologize for that. We do have an interactive map, on some of the outlets that we're sharing
Yeah.
with Facebook and IntiWeb. That interactive map is going to have the evacuation, on it as well. So you can see the area closures, the fire perimeter, and the evacuation area. So we are working to improve on that, and I appreciate the comment. We'll make sure that gets passed on. Gary, anything else on the evacs you want to add?
I'd say the community needs to stay tied in with Todd's system and
Can you come over here and speak, to the back?
I would say any local folks would need to be tied into the system that Todd Robinette is setting up here or through Chris. And if there's values at risk out there that the team needs to know about, which they're constantly getting thrown out of anyway, but local knowledge is important. Get it to him so we can do that. But I've seen that on all of these fires countywide, you gotta keep in mind the sheriff's office is working all these different fires too, from Baker to Unity to, but they're reacting ahead of what they think they need, so it's been working well.
Great. So with that, I'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to Shane to address questions and field them as appropriate. So thanks.
Okay, so, one set of rules for the questions and comments. There are no rules. Okay, so, dead serious. We're in your community, so for as long as I'm here, I'm part of the community. It doesn't matter where I'm from, Colorado, I don't care, but for for the next however long we're here, I live in this community. I'm part of the community, the team's part of the community. We're here to help you, okay? So, for as long as this takes here, comments, questions, concerns, throw them at me. If I can't answer them, we will find you answers, okay? And it's gonna be hit or miss. I'm gonna try and see people. I'm not like a presidential candidate. I'm not good at this. I'm just a regular guy. I'm gonna start with this gentleman because I see him first.
What level are you?
What level?
Incident commander?
Type 2.
Okay.
Type 2 incident commander. This is a type 2 incident management.
How do we get that updated?
To a type 1, it's based on complexity. So depending on how complex the fire gets, and we do this thing, we have a program, I won't go into the whole acronym, alphabet soup stuff. We have a program, we do a complexity analysis, and it determines the complexity of the fire. That determines the type of team you get. I will tell you that the difference between a type 2 and a type 1 team is the ability for them to manage more stuff. So it doesn't have to do with they're better than we are, or that we're better than the type 3 team that was here, because we're not. The different levels are based on the size and scope. So our whole system is kind of based on span of control. So my operations section chiefs out there fighting the fire know just as much as ones on the type 1 team, and the guys that were on the type 3 team know just as much as our guys on the type 2 team. But it's the amount of people that come on the incident management team and our ability to grow. So let's say it's a fire that's in Washington right now. It's 160,000 acres. So we can't put one camp on one side of it and get around the whole fire. So we'll put up multiple camps and build branches all over, and the ability to support the firefighters and have a span of control of overhead, that determines a little bit of the type 2 and type 1. Right now, this is still at a type 2 complexity. We can still manage the amount of resources that we have, because to be honest, we don't have a lot. As they mentioned to you, we just do not have a lot, and we're not gonna get them. We're not gonna get a lot more because there's not enough to go around. There are 46 incident management teams assigned to fires in the West today. There are 46 incident management teams in the entire United States. Every one of them is assigned to a fire somewhere, in some fashion or other. There are other incident management teams that belong to some states and stuff, and so the number fluctuates, but essentially the system is tight. That's why you probably saw in the news, we're bringing in the Australians, we're bringing in the New Zealanders, we brought in the Canadians, we brought in the military. That's on top of federal, state, local resources, volunteers, you name it. Everybody is engaged in fighting a forest fire. That said, your community and us here in this fire, this is my problem. This is our problem. So all that other stuff is just noise in the system. I'm here to deal with what we've got going on here. The resources that we can get, we're gonna keep ordering more. If they give them to us, they give them to us. If they don't, then we're gonna prioritize, which is what we've been doing. We're gonna prioritize what's most important, and we go sort of in this order. Life first, right? So we're gonna protect life first. Next is property, and usually it's structures and then land. Okay? So we've got to prioritize where we put our stuff, because we don't have enough stuff and they're just not going to give us any more. I could order 4 type 1 incident management teams tomorrow. They're not going to show up. But if they did, they can't get any more stuff than we can get you. Just can't happen.
Can I make a comment on your priorities?
Yes, sir.
In addition to life, property, and that sort of thing, there's probably $10 million worth of cattle
Yes, sir.
up in these mountains. There's probably more cattle value than maybe there is structure value for the people. So we need to be sure that that priority is in there. A sufficient level that those of us who have cattle up there
Right.
can either get them out or get them ahead of you in time to move. Cows are not easy to move.
Have you talked to our operations chief today?
And not.
Okay, because our operations chief, the guys that fight the fire, have talked to a whole lot of cattle folk today and are working with them all to move cattle as we speak. That is occurring as we speak. And I don't know how many or who exactly, because like I said, they're into the weeds on that, but we're working on the cattle because we agree with you. I also know, because I'm a small town kid from Colorado, I know the grass that they eat is extremely important. I understand that very clearly. Yes, sir.
I know your maps are not a little short there, but could you possibly, from the fire you got on there, whereabouts is Carson and how many miles out?
Air miles.
Air miles, Carson sits about right over here, probably 15 miles, 14, 15 miles, due east.
Which mountain are you?
Sorry, this one from here, sorry. forget about this map. From here, Carson over here, halfway where south of Carson is. Yeah, south of Carson down here, and then Richland. So kind of the line of stuff over here, where you all are, Carson, halfway Richland, is about 15 miles from the edge of our fire out here. And a whole lot of ridges and stuff.
Like, where's McBride on that map, on the big map?
I don't know, do we have a forest map? You guys have a forest map? They're gonna find a forest map, we'll get a better look at that. Okay, yes ma'am.
What's our best way to know about changes in the evacuation levels? It was sort of sketchy up in Carson. When I called a neighbor, he said he'd gotten an automated message 3 hours previously, and all we ever heard was word of mouth around.
We're using Beacon.
Okay. Hey, Gary?
How does that happen?
We sign up for it.
So, evacuation information, best way, you guys are doing,
Yeah, there's Code Red.
Yeah, we're using Beacon Code Red. That's what we have. We're in Carson, but a lot of our neighbors
If
aren't.
you have a landline in your house, you'll get the notifications through Baker County's reverse 911. With a lot of people having cell phones now, you've got to sign up through a system we have called Code Red. You can do that online by going to the Baker County website and going to the Code Red system and fill out the information. Those messages will then go to your cell phone, whether you're in Baker, Boise, or Portland, they'll ping you. And so, any questions, and you can call the Baker County Dispatch, 541-523-6415. But you can sign up through the website.
Did you say that it would automatically, evacuation would automatically come on the landline? Is that what you said?
If you have a hard line, landline, through the reverse system, we can grab an area and that number can be rang with a message. Cell phones, you have to sign up for.
With the landline, I only know one family that got it on their
That
landline.
landline will only be activated in a type 3 or better.
Pardon?
That landline will only be activated.
We got it on
We got
what
type
last
1
year?
and type 2.
Really?
We did too. Yeah.
And has anybody got a question on the levels, 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah.
A 1 is there's a fire in the area, be aware of that. A level 2 is be ready to go. And a level 3 is please leave the area.
What did you say about the,
Is this going to work for you?
about the landline and before line in?
The land, it's all set up through Baker County. When it's triggered, they make that call. We don't make that call, I have a voice in that. But Baker County's making that call. So, for the sign up, is that what, the sign up or?
No, landline. If you have a landline in your house.
If you have a landline in your house and you're within that parameter, you will get a notification via phone,
Okay.
landline. Or email, text, however that comes across, however you sign up.
Okay.
But if it's an immediate evac, you'll definitely be contacted by landline. Yes, you will be contacted, if it is immediate evac, you'll be contacted by landline, you'll see all of our smiling faces knocking at the door. Does that cover?
I think so.
And again, I think at the end, we'll make sure that we have an opportunity to announce all the phone numbers, the Joint Information Center, the County Dispatch, the Fire Information Line. We'll make sure we announce those all at the end so you guys can write them all down. So with that, Shane, address the question about McBride really quick since we found that in the interim, and we'll get right to your question.
okay, so I know you're not gonna be able to see this, but I'm gonna point anyway, okay? They pay me to point at stuff. I used to fight forest fires, not to point at stuff. So the fire is right here. That's East Fork Eagle Creek, where my pen is, right there. Okay? McBride
Put a big X on it.
Yeah, okay.
is right here. That's about 9 miles. Right? Halfway, there's Pine. There's Carson. I was looking for Carson because you asked about Carson. Carson's right there, so yeah, 14, 15 miles.
So how far do you expect it to go today with the wind? Can you show us all that?
Yeah, today with the wind, Chris just put an X over it. See how this works? You wanted an X, you got an X. So with the wind of today, probably, so I'm gonna tell you this, okay? What our fire behavior analysts tell us with the best modeling and computer-y thingies, it's kinda like the weather. The best science we have, it will probably go 1 to 2 miles. Cause it's gonna go up and hit the ridge, and then it's gotta go down. And they burn downhill a whole lot slower, but it doesn't mean they don't burn down, because they do. But if it throws spot fires across it, that's really hard for our model, our computer to figure out. But it is not gonna come like 8 or 9 miles. Okay, hang on just a second, sir, I promise this gentleman, I go here next.
The whole phone thing, internet thing, it's all fine and dandy, but, is there at least a representative or a place or billboard in each of these communities outlined that has current updated information, that even if you don't have the cell phone or you just are not getting the phone call for whatever reason, you can at least go to one spot and know that you have current information?
Great question.
Yes.
So, there is, and I'm going off of reports, there's supposed to be a board here in the community. I got into town, I was looking for it, I haven't seen it yet, but there's supposed to be a board here in town. I know that in Richland, there is a couple places where information is being posted. As of tomorrow, we are planning to staff that internally. We've had some gracious cooperation with our partners that are coming out to do that, so we will make sure, as far as current, it will be current with the morning information, drive time to these places to stop and talk to folks and get that posted. Might be a little bit outdated by the time you see it, but they'll try to be out here around noonish. By the time we get it done and drive out here and go to all those communities. So
I was just more concerned that, if, communication resources go down, at least they have something in their
Yeah, and
right
that's,
near.
and
that they-
currently, like I said, those have been staffed. We're gonna try and increase a presence out here because of what's been happening with the fire.
So, and I don't mean to step on Chris's toes, neighbor guy, but Todd. So, he said he's gonna set up an ICP here. We will ensure a direct link from Todd to us, so that the information here is as up to date as a telephone call.
In the Lions Club?
Yes.
So you'll be using this number?
No, well, I don't know, I've gotta work that out with Dick yet,
Okay.
but, my cell phone will be here, and if we can use this one, we'll use it, but,
What hours will you be staffing?
I'll be here until there's nobody left to ask questions.
No, when you do this on a daily basis.
Or just 24/7.
24/7, okay.
Did everybody get that?
What's your number? What's your cell phone?
541-403.
Say again?
Just a minute.
So again, we'll go over all the numbers at the end, make sure we get that, and everybody's got a chance to find the pens and paper, if you need it.
Give you all kind of.
We'll give you a whole bunch of numbers. Just to wrap that up, what I heard, we're gonna increase, making sure stuff is current on the places around town. We're gonna work closely with Todd here at the ICP and make sure that they've got a direct contact with us and we know exactly what's happening out on the fire. And we'll button that up and we'll make sure Todd has an opportunity to share the information line that he's gonna be receiving calls at here, and the hours that he's planning on staffing it, so, great.
Man in the back in the blue shirt.
So